Hello, folks. I'm Andrew Milne, and you're all very welcome back to the Celtic Soul podcast. It's been a while. In fact, it's been too long, but it's great to be back in the studio. Um, on this week that we bring out an issue of the Fanzine on our 23rd birthday. It's been 23 years since we started selling more than 90 minutes outside Celtic Park. It seems like a lifetime ago, but we've had so many great memories over the years traveling to see Celtic and home and away. It's been quite an adventure. I'd just like to dedicate this podcast to two people because it is an anniversary edition of the fanzine. Scott Crystal was our away days man, and I was thinking of him in Dortmund. And on the way home, when I was writing up the away days for the game, Scott was great. He was home and away with Celtic. He was based in London, but he was, his home in Glasgow was McCool's. Him and Joe Miller from Not the View, great characters. I was in Milan. I ruined Milan in Milan with Scott and Michael Pringle, and I have to say that was a great trip. Some great laughs, and I'll just tell you a little story about the type of person Scott was. Scott was. We were coming back on the train that day, and we sat and Michael were chatting on the tube on the way back in from the game. We just been beaten by Inter, and Scott got chatting to a young lad from up north in Scotland, and he'd lost his phone and his wallet. So Scott gave him his phone to ring his mum and tell him he was okay. And as we got off at our stop, Scott handed him 50 quid, and he said that'll get you now to back to your hotel and to your mates if you need a taxi or whatever. So that's just the type of person Scott was, and Scott was taken, far too young from us. It's all. I'd also like to dedicate this podcast to David Potter. David had wrote for all the history pieces and was our go-to man for facts about Celtic. An author of numerous books, he's left behind such knowledge in his books for people to read for hundreds of years to come about our great club and some of the players who played for them and some of the characters. Um, David was ever present on the podcast when we needed him. We done a couple of grand old history podcasts during lockdown with him, and he liked nothing more than talking about Celtic. Unfortunately, we were off air when David passed away, so we didn't get to do a tribute podcast to him. But we will. We will get one now that we're back in the studio and we have a bit more time. Work has been hectic for the last 12 months, so settling down now so I can concentrate now more on the podcast because the fanzine is always number one. So any spare time is spent on that. So thanks for tuning in again after so long. Our guest today is another stalwart of more than 90 minutes, a regular contributor, Paddy McMenamin. Paddy was born in Belfast, of Tyrone and Belfast parents, he tells me, of good stock. Paddy spent the 70s in Long-Kesh after he joined the Provisional IRA. On his release, he moved to Donegal, where he walked away, and at the age of 50, he decided to go to university to become a secondary school teacher. He taught history and English. He's now retired, which gives him plenty of time to go to see Celtic, plenty of time to write for the fanzine, and he's another two books coming out after his first book from Armed Struggle to Academia was a huge success and a great read. And if you haven't read that, give it a go. It's a fantastic book. I'll just get the formalities out of the way. Big shout out to Bill Kiley Heating in Balbriggan, County Dublin. Kiley Heating and Plumbing, I should say. Bill's been a great supporter of the fanzine and the podcast over many years. And during lockdown, he helped us out by sponsoring a podcast or two. And he's back for the first one of the new series as well. So, Bill, thanks a million. And keep sponsoring us. What else have I to say? Oh, yeah. If you'd like to sponsor the podcast, you can do so by emailing us at info@celticfanzine.com or the fanzine if you want to sponsor that either. Whatever you suit, we'll be happy. You can also contact us through all the social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, or X as it's called now. So you've LinkedIn, X, Facebook, and Instagram for the younger ones. And all the content is free. We don't put anything behind it paywall. So if you'd like to support us, you can do so by visiting the website, celticfanzine.com, and you'll find all the latest news, blogs, podcasts, videos, and information on our upcoming events. On our website, you'll also find our online shop where you can buy the latest fanzine, subscribe to the fanzine, buy a t-shirt or a bit of merchandise. And you can also donate for the price of a pint or a cup of coffee if you like the fanzine, you like what we do, and if you like the podcast. As I said, we put nothing behind a paywall. Issue 134 of the fanzine is now on sale. You can get that as a digital download on the website, or you can order a copy and we'll stick it in the post. We're not in the shops anymore. So it was just too much hard work, and the cost was huge when we were getting into all the shops. Our next big event is in Thailand in March, and we'll be there in Bangkok and Hua Hin from the 14th to the 21st. I think I'll just have to double check that. I'll put in the notes. And all details of the festival anyway are on the website and all our socials. And thank you so much for the continued support over the past 23 years. So I suppose we better speak to Paddy. We record this podcast on the 15th of October, which is the 50th anniversary of the burning down of Long Kesh. Paddy was inside that day, and hopefully he'll give us an account of that day along with his thoughts on all things Celtic, the band Kneecap, and the final curtain for the Wolf Tones. And Paddy was at that as well. You see, when you retire, you get so much time to go around. And we'll also get an update on Paddy's 2 new books as well. So, folks, without further ado, welcome Paddy McMenamin. Hello, Paddy. You're very welcome back. Are you okay there? You're making a lot of hands.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's good.
You're very welcome back to the Celtic Soul podcast, Paddy. It's been a while. How are you?
Not too bad, Andy. Not too bad. I've recovered after the 7-1 demolition in Dortmund, so it took a bit out of me. Mary never heard expletives been deleted in such numbers.
Oh, I seen your comments the next day on the way home on the train. I was heading from Dust to the airport. I seen your comments. You were up early with them comments. Well, Paddy,
we were supposed to go, and then with no tickets, and then we found out that Frankfurt Hahn is not Frankfurt. It's about 2 hours away.
That's true, yeah.
So to go to Frankfurt Hahn, and then Mary she was just a wee touch of cold or something. And we checked the hotel. We were able to cancel the hotel up to 24 hours, and we just decided we wouldn't go. And after the exhibition, I was glad,
Well, with the social life you have, Paddy, you can't be going everywhere. Paddy, like you mentioned Dortmund there, a case of same old story. But it's been a good start to the season domestically. We look like a team that have improved considerably and carried on from the form at the end of last season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about it. I mean, I don't like being critical, and we are where we are, but while we're domiciled in the SPL, we're going to get nights like that. I mean, we probably the 36. I think the new format is going to suit us because the last 4 games very winnable, and we could even qualify in the 24. But I mean, we can't go toe to toe against Dortmund, Barca, Real Madrid. We can't. I mean, I was very critical, and I don't credit. I'm not an expert, but I mean, Brendan Rodgers did the same the last time around, 7-1, 7-0. I mean, even Neil Lennon, who gets a lot of criticism, he was able to beat Barcelona with 20% possession. There's a certain way we have to play, and that is you have to defend. We haven't got the players. The quality of players we have are not our second level. They're not top of the Champions League. We could never compete. And I wouldn't mind going out and getting beat 2-0 or 3-0. That'd be okay. 7-1, it's embarrassing. It makes people here in Ireland, the Man United cohort, the Liverpool crowd, it makes them say they're just stay in Scotland, that's their level, I mean, it's a bit frustrating, you know. I mean, I'd be happy. The new format, I think, could be brilliant. 8 games qualify a 10th, 2 more games, 10 games in the Champions League, 40 million. I could accept that and win the SPL every year, but I need them 10 games. I mean, I have a season ticket, but there's nothing would make me go to watch St Johnson or Ross County or God. I know I'm cherry picking the big games, but I can't watch that stuff, you know. And a wee ground. I was in Sligo as you were during the week, and or last week, and like the stadium looked like we see in Sky with about 6,000 people at Ross County. It looks terrible. I know guys here that said they just couldn't watch it. You know, it looks it's horrible. But that's where we are. I mean,
Well, Paddy, what's horrible that Ross County don't have enough fans to fill their stadium, or
No, I know
horrible
from
that
that
like
point of view that
Celtic can go out and beat them.
I know that we could,
But
I know
Surely, Paddy, you don't support Ross County, or you don't
no,
support,
no, but I know
Celtic.
we could fill. I know we could
That's the
fill the
league they're in,
stadiums,
Paddy.
but I mean, I'm talking about the stadium. Like we were over in the sort of main stand at Sligo and looking across, and it just looked like Ross County, and I thought, oh my God, anybody here watching EPL, which I detest, but they're watching in these wonderful stadiums. I mean, if we could show all our home games live on TV here in Ireland, it'd be different. The only Celtic games that people in Ireland say, well, I know everybody's got the dodgy box and the Fire Stick now, but the general sort of football person, they're watching, Old Trafford, Etihad,
Ghost
whatever,
Town,
Arsenal, chat.
Old Trafford,
But
Ghost.
yeah, no, but it's the quality is, and you put on Ross County and you see this wee stadium, it looked like Sligo. It's oh,
Paddy,
anyway.
like Sligo was a brilliant club. Sligo was a brilliant game, competitive game. Great walkout for the players. Great for Sligo Rovers. Great fundraiser for
Oh no,
and the
no,
people going
it
down
was
the
a lovely,
numbers. So, Paddy, I think
but I'm saying
negativity. I think you're getting too old.
no, but I mean
Like comparing us, even to think of the compare of us about teams down south. Paddy, that's nothing to do with us. Let them build their stadiums. We play in Scotland. We play in Europe.
I know, but I mean,
We can't
you
compete with
know,
money. I need a Sligo
no,
Rovers.
but I mean, if we showed if Sky showed Celtic at home one week, and I suppose the other crowd the next week, at least there'd been two stadiums, 60, 50,000, and that could compete with anything they show in England. But when they just show them away matches, it just anyway. What can we do? It is what it is.
Paddy, like I do agree with you. It doesn't look good
It
for the
looks
broadcaster to be
it
showing
looks terrible.
empty
It looks
stand. So
terrible.
maybe they should give the tickets to Celtic fans who'll fill the stadiums,
Oh, sure, I know, of course,
and then
but
they might have a spectacle.
it but anyway, it's just the way it is, you know.
Yeah, and I suppose while you're moaning, I'll get you on about Paddy. We're just coming out of the international break now. As I said, we went to Sligo and it was I had a great time.
Yeah,
Absolutely brilliant. The people of Sligo, the pubs, the crack. It was just
yeah.
it was just
I missed you at O'Neill's. We were outside O'Neill's, and the doorman says if you can squeeze in, Andrew's buying drinks for the bar.
well, I was because I had your credit card.
But so we went back down the street. I forget the name of the place, facing the bus station. A few of us went in there, you know. But it
Yeah,
was a good night in Sligo, actually.
cold night. The winter's back.
Oh, it was cold, you know, and I met a girl actually. I knew she was in a wheelchair, like down at the front, and she texted me. I'd met her like about 15 years ago at the university here, and she lives in Sligo and goes to all their games, you know. And so we went down, had a wee chat with her at half time, you know.
Yeah, they
But
seem to have a great. They seem to have a great. I think they play their games on Saturday night. They seem to have a great camaraderie between the fans and like even like like the program sellers, raffle ticket sellers. I even get hit. I even get hit after the game in a pub for lottery tickets. So like they certainly work hard at the volunteers.
they're good.
That was brilliant as well, which I haven't seen in years. They had a program shop. You
Oh
know,
yeah, I
they
actually didn't see that, but I seen it. I seen a photo of it
yeah,
the next day
and it was just a
online.
real throwback. But they have I seen I stayed with Downey. Downey's one of the Fenian boys from New York, but he comes home to Sligo quite a lot. He's a mad Sligo fan, and he always comes down to
Okay,
Drogheda when Sligo play Drogheda. But
okay.
he's gone back to New York now for a couple of weeks. But he was showing me the plans. They have a big brochure out for the plans.
I see the for a new
I have
stadium.
to say it's
Impressive.
quite spectacular. Like, and if they get everything,
Yeah.
if it looks as good as it looks in the plans, that they're
I
going to
know.
win stadium.
I mean, it's a soccer. Obviously, it's a garrison town. Going back. So like Derry or I suppose probably Dublin or wherever. It's Athlone. It's a soccer town more than a Gaelic town, and it shows like that. I seen a wee bit of their match last night. They drew with Derry.
Yeah,
They up in the Brandywell, which didn't help Derry's
I don't
cause.
think anyone wants to win that title in Ireland this year.
I know.
Incredible, isn't it?
Jesus.
It's just
The But I know a couple of boys. Mickey Ferry from Milford played in the '81 Cup final, I think, for Sligo, I think. And oh Jesus, Charlie. Oh Christ, he got over to Spurs when he was 16 or 17. Charlie McGeever, but I think he did his cruciate then, but and he came back, but he played League of Ireland then, like I think he played with Sligo, played with Harps, and then managed Harps. But the two of them, I think there was always a few Donegal guys playing with them.
yeah. And the huge Glasgow connection as well, like with Sligo
Oh,
Rovers.
sure, of course, of
Not
course.
only Sean Fallon and Willie McStay, but Downey was telling me that the first ever Celtic team, um,
Had a couple of players.
there was one from Sligo, but the Celtic Graves Association, with the help I suppose of the boys in New York, found his grave in Brooklyn. He played it. I just can't think of
Right.
his name.
It wasn't.
In
I was
Brooklyn.
doing a wee bit of research there for a book that I'm doing, and Charlie McAleeney, no,
I,
because that doesn't ring a bell. He was one of the first. That's one of the first Irish guys I came across, 1897 or
yeah,
something.
it
But
could be him. Yeah, it could be him.
may not, yeah.
And then I
Um,
checked up a couple of pictures and that. When I was coming home the next morning, I checked up because Downey had done an interview in the program as well
okay.
about the whole Celtic Sligo connection. But anyway, we move on. But before I leave Ireland, right? Scales, 2 games for us.
Yeah.
They got a much needed win, and he scored a great goal against Finland, and then quite a good second half performance after they went 1-0 down against Greece. So are you seeing improvements under the new manager?
Ah, it's early days, the first of all, Scales. I honestly think I mean, your man didn't play him in the first two games, and he has a sort of quite a settled back four now. And I thought, is this going to be a wee bit of, he's only playing in Scotland stuff? But Scales, I think he's played himself into the team. And your man, can't even pronounce his name, the manager.
Timo
He's
Hagrinson, I think.
Hagmanson,
I
yeah.
hope, I hope I don't pronounce that wrong, but
He uh, he
wonderful.
he even mentioned in an interview about having a left-footed centre back was a big positive for him. So I honestly, and the press was reading. I don't buy it, but I seen it in the coffee shop yesterday, the Endo, and they were saying about Scales was very impressive.
Yeah,
Because
and one,
you still get that sort of stuff again from the English sort of thing. They're only playing in Scotland. You know, that sort of stuff that we get over the years.
And
But
one thing the manager did
Scales
say,
has proved
Paddy,
exceptional.
sorry, Paddy, one thing the manager did say was that one of the reasons he brought Scales in was also because he was playing in a winning team and he was used to winning.
Okay, I didn't see that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
did say that, which was interesting because a good few years ago, I done an evening with Ray Houghton, and someone asked him about the success of that Irish team, and he said it was the team. It was a team of winners.
They were all winners.
He
All
said,
winners.
Paul McGrath won the FA Cup, Packy
That's right.
won a double at Celtic, Mick McCarthy, Chris Morris, Celtic, and then all the Liverpool players
Some
and
Man United, yeah. Some Villa were second, I think, around that time. That
Ronnie,
yeah, they were all
Ronnie
top
Whelan had
players.
won a European Cup. You know, he won everything actually. Frank Staten was used to winning, and he named all these players and right through, and he was true. They were all playing with top teams, and they were all winning trophies. Now I know football has changed considerably
We're
with
a long way from
of
that.
foreign players, but it is important maybe that you know that they do bring in players that are used to winning because it couldn't have got any worse before he came in. Like, and
Oh,
you're
it's
you're no, you go to the games.
yeah.
It's been a tough watch for a couple of years.
Oh, it's of the season ticket as well, but it's the only it's the OAP over 65 ticket. I wouldn't be investing. But I go up in maybe I go up an odd time, just 3 or 4 times a year. It's nice to run up in the train to Dublin, stroll about up around Grafton Street or something. Uh, Going to O'Donoghue, stroll over to Ballsbridge. But I have a big mate who's Mal lives up the street here, and he's from Coventry originally, but Irish parents, and he's a great football man. Went to America in his early 20s and played college soccer, and then was picked up by one of the teams. And he had about a 10-year career in San Francisco and North Carolina. In the set, he was there at the time at Georgie Best and Beckenbauer, and they were in the first division. He was in the second, but they had 20,000 attendances at their matches, and he had a good career, but he had never been in Glasgow. And so when I got to know him a few years back, and we're chatting about it, and I says, I'm going over to Celtic. He says, "Oh, I was never in Glasgow. I'd love to go." So I brought him over, and you'll remember it was the night of the Lazio match, the first year we played them. After do you remember the whole stadium? The whole stadiums were singing "F Lazio," if you can remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Mal,
That was on
like,
Neil Lennon.
yeah, and Mal said, "I've never in my life been in a stadium like that," and so he's been over a few times since, and he's hoping to get over to a Champions League game, maybe in January, that last one. But he enjoys, because he's a great football man.
And does he follow Ireland?
He'll watch the games, but he watch, fair play to him. Like he's a Coventry man. He'll watch Coventry if he gets him on the Fire Stick, or so he's not one of these glory hunters. It's forget about their local team and go for Man U or go for Man City, as all the kids are doing now, which is breaking my heart. Seeing kids in Galway with Man City jerseys, it's you know.
Just the way,
But
just the way of the world.
it's the way of. I remember being in the '95 when we won the cup in '95, the only trophy nearly in the '90s, and we were at a function in Guidor, and they had the cup there, and Paul McStay was there, and there was a priest who's a great um, Father Michael, a great Celtic man, and I was chatting to him, and he says, "Paddy, we've lost a generation of Celtic supporters." Because he had been thinking back to the 50s and 60s, I suppose, and 70s, and he says just the power of television. So it's even worse now. Although the only thing I suppose they are getting to see Celtic, I suppose at least they're seeing them in Sky. Where for 30 years in Ireland, like all you seen was English football. You know that, like nobody would ever see Celtic.
Yeah, but in
So
Ireland, Paddy, there's no. There's no team attracting the numbers across the water than Celtic.
Oh no, no, of
You
course,
know,
yeah.
I'm in the airport.
Oh yeah,
Like it's
that's right.
for every Liverpool or Man United fan traveling,
That's
there's
right.
Celtic fans. So I think
That's right.
if kids are looking for an opportunity to go regularly to see a team, well, they don't have to look much further than my supporters club because the amount of kids that go over through the club, we have 150 season books. We're only too
Oh,
happy to bring them.
shit, of course, and the Donegal Association do the same, and that one of my grandkids over last year, and I've got to the stage now, being a bit facetious, but when I hear people saying they're United or they're City or they're whoever, and I sort of just jokingly, so many times have you been in Old Trafford, and invariably, sure, none of them have ever been in this bloody match. They're all Man U, Liverpool, whatever. They've never been in the stadium in their lives. They're all in the pubs on a Saturday here. So you see them, I'm sure, there as well, in the pubs watching it. But
I was going to
if
get
you
that as
asked,
well, Paddy. The
huh?
publican's the only happy man there, and the rest like a jersey seller. Paddy,
But
yeah, just you wrote a couple of articles for the new issue. And one of them, like, I would just
apologize, they were maybe a wee bit on the long side.
it's not like you, Paddy. It's not like you to go on, Paddy. One of the articles was no pass around, and it was about the rise of, I suppose, right wing elements in Ireland, and they've always been in Britain, and the genocide in Palestine. Both subjects close to Celtic fans, and close to the culture of the club. You know, the latest protest, of course, was in Dortmund, because in Germany you can't have a Palestinian flag, and
Okay.
they done the T-shirt. Very clever protest, reminiscent of the old Sack the Board protest back
Okay.
in Celtic Park in the 90s. Um, yeah, just discuss the article, Paddy. Like, you've been around the block a few times.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, we, we all know. I mean, it's disgusting. I mean, I grew up with sectarianism. Um, Now we've got right wing racism. Um, we know who's behind it in Belfast. It's loyalist paramilitaries, and you see the scum that came up from Kulak and mixing with them, and they having a tricolour over their shoulders, and somebody beside them a UDA guy and a Union Jack, and I mean, and these people are. The only word I can think of, they're scum. Unfortunately, they're they're small group. They don't get a. I mean, you see the next election, they'll get no votes. They're only a small group, and I'm surprised the people in Kulak and other places didn't do what the Republicans organised the anti-drugs campaign in the 80s and Dublin, and they got and the people in the streets marched to the drug pusher's house and evicted them out of the house. I'm surprised people didn't get together and march to these houses when these people are on TV. I mean, these people they're ignorant, they're brainless, and their hatred is their hatred is just the same uh, as we had loyalists against, I hate using the religious term, but against Catholics and back in the day, and probably even still in places. I mean, like we welcome migrants. We were migrants, all of us, all. The whole Celtic support nearly come from migrants heading to Scotland from Donegal, from other places. And going to. I mean, we were original migrants, and these people come, and and to think that there's bloody people out there that's born in their houses or born in places they're going for shelter, and I mean, we can't let them grow. And I would hate to think we could have some people that got amongst some of the Celtic support, but we need to, if it ever comes up in a discussion, they need to be put down. They need to be told where to go. And I don't think we would have many because we're such a strong socialist working class background. But there is some of these people everywhere. I'm sure there's some in Galway. I'm sure they're in Letterkenny. But they're disgusting. It's not of all people. I mean, for Ireland to have these sort of people, it's but you have to put them. They have to be put down. I have a friend. I don't know. Yeah, he was at the dinner dance last year. Jerry Morton lives in Moodysburn, and he was down in England, in Manchester, and different places in the 80s, and he was part of the anti-fascist groups, and they battered them off the streets. And some of his mates still come up from Manchester to an odd Celtic game, and they took the action that I think needs to be taken with these people. They're low life. I mean, there's no place for them in any civilized society, I think.
And then Paddy, you also wrote about I suppose the wider conflict over in Palestine and the genocide that's going on.
I mean, I've seen a lot of conflict in 70 years. I mean, come back to Palestine in 1970 and Lelia Khaled, and landing a hijacked plane and Amman, I think, and the end days and the PLO made the headlines, and I've seen, conflicts in Portugal, colonial, seen them in Latin America, seen Nicholas Sampson in Cyprus, he'd been in jail with an IRA guy in the 50s in England, and and we're Afghanistan and Iraq, and we have the Yanks, we have the Brits, I mean, back in this thing, the Yanks sent in 100 soldiers yesterday, specialist soldiers, into Tel Aviv. I mean, and we're back to. I nearly can't watch it anymore. I mean, every night another 20 women and children slaughtered, genocide, and it's horrible, and I mean, we probably the only club. I don't know where in Europe, but we all know how, especially the kids, the Green Brigade, with the banners and other people as well, and we give the Palestinians, fantastic support, and I even somebody sent me a clip of Al Jazeera of a woman talking about the Green Brigade last year, and she finished it. It was a news program in Al Jazeera, and she finished it up. I don't know if you've seen it. All glory to the Green Brigade, when she talked about what they've done and raised the money when the fines came in, against Celtic. I mean, it's horrendous, and the Arab states, it reminds me, it was a bit like Dublin during the 70s, and they didn't want to know us in Belfast, and when I look at Egypt and Syria and Dubai and the rich UAE states, and I don't think they give two shits about the Palestinians, and they definitely don't want 1 million Palestinians crossing their borders and going in, and even Jordan, who did a bit of slaughtering in 1970 with the Palestinians, it's you have a right wing sort of crowd in Jordan, a right wing militia, sort of half the country sort of split in two nearly, like here, and I mean, they do nothing. They don't the lip service, but they really, they don't want Palestinians. What do we do here? We brought in 100,000 Ukrainians. It's nothing against them, and we feed them and pay. They're getting the money and accommodation. I haven't heard them ever saying there's 100 Palestinians moving into, Kulak or, or Moore or Dundalk or,
The point I'm making, Paddy,
RD.
is that the Ukrainians, Russia is the enemy and back Ukraine, but yet there doesn't like the Irish government have been outspoken about Israel, but it doesn't. But the wider world is, yeah, it's shocking what's happening in Ukraine, but it's shocking what's happening in Palestine as well. But we can't be besetting the Israelis.
Yeah, well, we know the big picture is the Yanks. I think they're really wanting to feel the opportunity to really do one in Russia. And Russia's maybe weaker, but I mean, I don't think most people are aware. Like Ukraine during the Second World War, half the Ukrainians joined the Nazis. And did a bit of slaughtering against the Russians, and memories go back a long way. And there's that, like a lot of Eastern Europe, they're that right wing mentality. You know, the same in Yugoslavia when it split after Tito. And you've seen them breaking up into all the Bosnian, all the different countries. But a lot of them had fought with the Nazis in the Second World War, and them and communities and all people had long memories.
Mm.
And I think there's more to Ukraine. And even the guy running it, I mean, you just couldn't take to him. And see him marching about TV studios, and I'd love to know what side his parents were in the Second World War. It's just more to it. I mean, it's terrible. All conflict is terrible. Our conflict was terrible.
Yeah,
Palestine, Ukraine, it's all terrible. But it's I think the bigger picture, the Yanks just see an opportunity to get at Russia, and once and for all.
and
But
just see, I'm going to just switch back. Another article in a row, and that's a great article. It's an issue 134, the new issue, which is out this week. A very thought-provoking article. Paddy, he also wrote one about which is about Celtic. It's Matt O'Reilly. You wrote because Matt O'Reilly was leaving.
oh yeah,
Look back on, I suppose, the amount of players we've lost over the years. But one player that sticks out, Paddy, is Kane Dalglish. And the late David Potter said when he was sold that he knew that was the end of Celtic competing
yeah,
at the top, dining at the top table in Europe. And how right he was, and even if you go as far as
of
Jack
course.
Nicholas, when the likes of Nicholas were being sold, that was the end of kind of Celtic competing in Europe for till Martin O'Neill really came in.
Of course. Oh, horrible 20 years. I think Dalglish. Yeah, once that's happened, um, I mean, I remember. I think I maybe wrote it in the article. Harry Kedrick, Everton manager, famous manager in the '60s, and they asked him about Celtic and Rangers players, and he said, "I don't even bother to inquire about them." He says, "Because they just don't leave Celtic or Rangers at that time."
Mm.
And we were able to compete, and so I suppose with the other crowd, I mean, two semi-finals in 1972, European Cup, Cup Winners' Cup. I've tried to check it out. If we're the only city in Europe that ever happened, two teams in the one city and two semi-finals in the one night, 160,000. So the players didn't need to go, but I remember going to the 71 Cup final and Louis McCarry, and then there was rumours even, uh, you know, he was going to move, and he moved. I'm not sure what year he went, you know, and Davy Hay moved then maybe 74. Um, uh, but like we didn't need to go to England then, we were the equal of them. But then when Dalglish went, yeah, I think David Potter, God rest him, he probably hit it on the nail. It was the beginning and the end. That anybody, yeah, that wanted to like in my mind, if Dalglish had have stayed with Celtic, but we could have had another. They got 4 European Cups. If we had a kept McCarry, Davy Hay, Dalglish, George Connolly did Wookies. But with the guts of a good team that could have won. With the 70, well, let's come back a bit. 72 European semi-final, lost in penalties. 74, lost to Atletico Madrid. Um, if we had kept all them guys together, there's no reason. I know it was a great Liverpool team, but I suppose we're moving on then into the 80s, and yeah, things had changed.
Yeah. Paddy, I went to see Kneecap at Electric Picnic for the first time. I was lucky enough to be DJing down there, and I got to see a number of bands. 8,000 people in a tent. Unbelievable atmosphere, Paddy. I was a Kneecap virgin, 53 years of age. Uh, the energy in the room was unbelievable. They surprised me
Yeah.
with the show they put on. They have a political message to tell. They're very clever. They're no idiots. Um, Now they're telling their story through their music and their native language, which is very unusual for to see a young band, especially one I suppose coming from not coming like any trad bands that we have, the Clannad and that sing in the native tongue, they tend to come from Gaeltachts or
Mhm.
um, they don't tend to come from the cities.
Yeah.
But now you took a different journey to introduce yourself to Kneecap. You took Mary to the cinema and you were
Yeah.
with the Fanzine. So tell us a little bit about the cinema and going to see Kneecap.
Um, yeah, I mean, we actually went the first night. Lovely cinema here in Galway, the Eye, and the I wasn't sure what to expect. I looked at the reviews, and they were getting sensational reviews from America, and but it was it was something else, I found it was dynamic. It was to use the Irish language, use hip hop or the whatever the to use the Irish language, use that the hip hop stuff and rave to get the Irish language across. I thought it was ingenious, and I mean I know from there's a West Belfast Gaelta, the Gaelta Quarter, I think is the sort of the title it. I mean, since the conflict in the cages and in the cache, every hut had a Gaelta hut, which I had the pleasure to be in for 2 or 3 years, and we had guys who had learned Irish in the jails in the 50s and in the 40s, and told us that the guys were teaching them had learned in the Curragh in the 40s from guys who had learned it in the jails in the 20s. It was a fascinating. And I mean, the Gaelta hut was total immersion, no TV. We had radio in the Gaelta, listen to the music, Clannad and whatnot, and chieftains. And you spoke whatever, if you had one word or if you were fluent, you used whatever Irish that you had. We put on plays as Gaelga, and it was amazing. So the guys then that came out of the cages and came out of the H blocks, the who continued with the language, and I'm sorry I didn't, but they started setting up Gael schools then in West Belfast, and West Belfast is saturated with Gael schools. I have a good friend who we were up at the weekend. I don't be up much, but and he's fluent, and his 3 kids are Irish teachers. Went through school the whole way as Gaelga, Gaelscoil, Neenra, or Neenra Gaelscoil secondary. The uh, you know, um, and they're learning their kids now. You know, unfortunately, when I moved to Donegal, now we were only half an hour from Gweedore, but it seemed so far away then but I wanted to bring the kids up speaking Irish. Where we lived, our school in Termon was a large, I think they called it, a lot of the subjects were taught through Irish, but there was nobody speaking it. And I mean, I've hardly spoke a word since my kids haven't a word. Jerry's kids in Belfast are all fluent. It's interesting. It's the environment, you know. It's a bit like the guy, you know, learning Irish in the six counties is like playing the guy. It's a wee bit more than learning the language. It's a wee bit more than playing football. You know, it's who we are and identification and you know. So that's where the Kneecap guys are coming from. Their parents were fluent Gaeilgeoir, and they brought the kids up speaking Irish, and then they were into the music. The two young boys and one of their teachers got involved,
DJ
and
Pro.
he's the guy who,
Trophy.
yeah, you know, and I just thought it was. I mean, they had a go. Like everybody got a wee bit of a touch, you know, and the Ra got a touch, and the cops and the politicians, and you know, everybody got a wee bit of a touch during it, and you know, but I just thought it was brilliant. The bit mad, I suppose, you know, and the only thing we ended up as we were leaving, driving home. Uh, um, how shall I put it? Like Joe Brawley in his podcast, he calls his nearest and dearest his some term the beautiful whatever.
Brunette.
But
Calls it a beautiful brunette.
yeah, and Mary was disgusted, and we argued the whole way back home. She was disgusted because you know it was full of drugs, amphetamines or whatever, you know, all this stuff. And she was saying it's terrible promoting this, and what was the RAD doing involved, and which I had to explain her that it wasn't. It was the dissidents, and you know they'd give the young boys the go ahead to sell the drugs, and they would take half the profit. You know, so there was a bit of that nonsense going on, and but Mary thought it was, in my opinion, if 1,000 kids go to a rave or go to when you're DJing, out of a fair idea that 2/3 of them are taking something. It's just the way it is. It's unfortunate, but the
That's the way
kids,
it is. It's the 60s.
it's the way, you know. We argued about the guilt there, you know, people going to the guild, and I says, Mary, don't be under any illusion thinking the kids and the guiltas aren't taking it. Kids that go to football games, go to Celtic, go to concerts, go to the Wolf Tones. You know, it's part of it, you know, and that was I just thought the film was highlighting that. They weren't pushing they definitely weren't. They weren't pushing it, you know. I mean, you know, they were a bit sort of tongue in cheek, obviously. You know, the guy, more or less, it was like a reincarnation of Bobby Sands. They called him Bobby Sandals. The dad came along, you know, it had been on the run for 30 years, and he came back, like, and the dissidents were going to shoot the kids, and like, and I suppose he ended up
Don't
getting
tell me everything, Paddy.
enforcing.
Don't ruin
Oh,
it.
sorry, you didn't. Oh, you didn't see it.
I haven't seen it
Oh,
yet.
you
No.
didn't see the film. Sorry. Oh, yeah, Jesus, sorry. Oh, you were at the actual the concert, their
I was
concert.
I was at the gig, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah,
a friend of
but I
mine.
mean, after it came out that first week, it was the most. I read somewhere the way I suppose the promoters and the put it into so many cinemas around Ireland. It was the biggest uptake ever of a film in Ireland. Like whatever 150 cinemas showed it that first weekend, you know, and the I thought it was brilliant. Be interesting now in December at the Oscars. They probably won't, you know, but they've got great reviews in America. Like
Yeah,
the Yanks, yeah,
Sundance
you know, and
Festival.
getting it from the right up in the New York Times and the read in India, the Daily whatever paper it was, and Irish Times in Dublin and the Guardian in London, and they were giving it the film amazing reviews. How a post-conflict generation, kids who, if they'd have been born in the 80s, would have probably been joining the Ra and ended up in Long Kesh or the H blocks. Now these kids, this was they were expressing, they learned the language, they were proud to be Irish, and that was all part of it. And it was just to see how a post-conflict generation have moved on.
Yeah, but it's not just I suppose kids that are into them. A good friend of mine, Eugene, he's big gig goer. Eugene would be
Okay.
Eugene would be in his 60s. He'd
Yeah.
gone to see them.
Nice.
He'd gone to see them around last Christmas in Dublin,
Yeah.
and
Loved it.
we were doing a tribute to Shane McGowan. We had Paul from the Wakes over and a couple of local musicians after
Okay.
Shane passed away, and Eugene arrived in a kneecap hat, and I laughed. And I said, "Well, did you go see them?" He said, "Yeah." I said, I was pleasantly surprised. He said it was because he said it was really good. They're really good. And again, I asked, like the question about, the Oscar again that, and he said, yeah. He said it's brilliant. He said, and he said he really enjoyed it. And again, this is a guy that he's been promoting bands. He's been going to see bands from I don't know the 70s.
Okay. Yeah.
And he was excited by them. So that kind of gave me I'd been listening to them before the picnic,
Yeah.
and then I said, right, and I'd gone to see the Mary Wallopers, and the Saw Doctors were coming on after them, but I said, look, I'm away. I'm going into the tent to get. So I was in that early into the tent. I got to see Moncrief. It was the band before, um,
Okay.
and then the tent just cleared out. But about 10 minutes before they came on stage, I couldn't move in the place. I was like, and I'd made the
Imagine.
mistake going up near the front. But visually, it was brilliant, brilliant videos and
Yeah. I haven't actually listened to. I just went to the film. I haven't really listened. Can you get it on Spotify?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Get the music? Yeah.
There's plenty on
Okay.
Spotify. There's a
Okay.
great song. It could be get the Brits out, but it's definitely. But it name checks all the DUP. It's very very.
Yeah, they had a wee go. It was brilliant. Like everybody, nobody got through the film without getting a wee rattle at them. But there's one, not spoil it for you, but there's the one forget which one it was now. But so we met this young girl at the gig, and she was a young Protestant girl from East
Oh,
Belfast.
don't
And
tell me anymore. Yeah.
well, let's say they have a creative moment as Gael gathers. Yeah, they're various, and it was so funny. Uh, and I'll not tell you the end of it, but he gets up and he
So,
and he drops it, but
don't be rude no more.
he drops his trousers and leaves. What happens after that was actually quite funny. And
Paddy, I sat down to watch it the other night, and something happened, and I couldn't watch it. I had to go, and but I promised myself this week now I'm going to sit down and watch it,
oh yeah,
and because you
I
can.
know it was good. And Mary is even I think she'll acknowledge she just came around. She was talking to her. She told her niece and her man went, and they thought it was great. And
Well,
so
I'm looking forward
yeah.
to it now. You sold it to me. Thanks to Paddy for taking the time out to chat to me today. The second part of that podcast will be out next week. Always great to hear from Paddy. And if you want to hear my original interview about his life story, check out episode 20 and 21 of the podcast. And you can also check out episode 97 when Paddy spoke about some of his great European nights. And they're all on celticfanzine.com, or you'll get them on wherever you listen to your podcasts. And I think 97 maybe on YouTube. I don't think we were on YouTube for 20 and 21. Folks, have a great weekend. I'm back in the Cross on Friday night after the Rovers draw the match. So I'm sure I'll see a few of the boys there. And I'm on the road on Saturday. So hopefully I'll bump into a few of the readers and the listeners outside Celtic Park. Celtic take on Aberdeen, top of the table clash. And looking forward to getting back to paradise. Have a good one.